All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph, and welcome to the Alumni Spotlight webinar. I work with admissions here at Designlab, and we are excited to be joined by Bethany Burns, who is an alumni of Designlab. And we're really going to just take this time to kind of have just hopefully a fun conversation where we just kind of learn about Bethany's kind of journey from, even before UX Academy, what that looked like, and going through the course and where she's at now. But yeah, looks like you guys are great with the chat here. I was just going to say, if you guys don't mind saying hi in the chat box here, you should be able to find that in the bottom right-hand corner. Great that you're saying hi right now. If you don't mind also adding where you're tuning in from. So for example, I'm tuning in from Chicago. Bethany, where are you tuning in from?
Georgia, Atlanta.
From Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot better weather than here in Chicago.
I don't know. It's kind of gloomy outside right now. So, yeah.
My brother lives in Georgia, and we're actually going to have our wedding there as well. So, like, I've been going back and forth to Georgia, and I love the way the weather there. It's not like Chicago where it's just like plain flat. So I love it there.
Cold.
Cold. It's great in the summer though. But yeah, it looks like we have a ton of people coming in. Thanks for saying hi in the chat box. We have people from Portland, Florida, Seattle, LA, North Carolina, New York,
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Well, that's great.
South Korea.
Yeah.
So many people.
Yeah, I know. Nigeria, San Francisco. Wow. A lot from Chicago. So you guys are y'all know I'm not kidding about the weather today. It's one of those like really chilly rain weather. So that's always the best. We have someone from probably sunny California, New Orleans. Yeah, you guys are all making me jealous. So we'll just go ahead and get started with the actual interview today. The way that I like to do things, I just want to have like a nice chill conversation where we get to know Bethany and then also just your journey. And hopefully everyone that's tuning in will just be able to get some good information and just put a face to who we are and what we do here. As I'm going through the interview, I have some questions ready, but really this is all for you guys as well. So if you do have any questions, if you could find it in the question box next to the chat box, feel free to ask some questions. I'll try to integrate them as much as possible into the actual interview. So I might not go through every question, but it's super helpful just to get some questions that you guys put in the question box. And hopefully I'll be able to ask them as we kind of go through our conversation. But yeah, again, feel free to go use the question box if you do have any questions, and we'll go from there. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get started. Bethany, if you don't mind, just kind of, I guess, just to start with, like where you're from, kind of your early years before you had your sights on UX and UI. What was Bethany's dreams as far as like what kind of career were you looking at?
Okay. So just to give a quick introduction, I'm Bethany. I'm 25 and I'm from Georgia. Man, before UX and product design, I was pursuing medicine. As some of you probably read on like the little blurb, I wanted to be either a physician's assistant or a nurse. So I was like heads down studying everything science related, medicine related. So I actually graduated with my bachelor's from UGA, go Dogs, in at the end of 2019. But at that time, I knew I didn't really want to go into medicine, but I was still just pursuing it because at this point, I had this expensive degree, and that was just what I thought I wanted to do for the longest time. And I figured I didn't have the time or like the resources to switch up and explore like what I wanted to do. But as y'all know, in 2020, everything changed with the pandemic. Like the world just kind of paused. So it was pretty terrible. But at the same time, I now had the time to like figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Because I just moved back home with my parents and we're just kind of all there. Everyone's in the house. So I was taking like a couple of more science classes at that time. And then I just like took a leap of faith and started exploring, okay, what do I want to do? What fits, what I already know as far as like my analytical skills or wanting to help people. And one of my best friends, she kind of brought up this idea of UX randomly one day. and we talked about it. We kind of researched it together, started looking at boot camps. And then, yeah, I kind of just decided to take the leap of faith and join a boot camp, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And that's super exciting that, and obviously we're interviewing you now, so I'm sure that everything's been pretty successful since then. But I guess, like, in the journey, like, you're going into more so the medical field.
Mhm.
Do you feel any kind of apprehension of like, oh, I'm not a designer, can I do this? Did you
Oh,
have that anxiety, or yeah?
for sure. That was one of the hard parts because when you study something for so long and like I had my sights set on that, thinking about switching up just seemed so hard because how am I going to do it in such a small amount of time?
Mhm.
Um, so I was very nervous, and honestly, I was thinking about doing UX research first because that felt a lot closer to what I was used to. But I knew that I really wanted to do design. I love doing creative things on the side, whether it's like crafts, DIY, whatever the case may be, like doing things on Canva. Um, so I really just had to like give myself the chance to try it. And again, at the time, we were all in the house, so I felt like it was a little bit smaller of a risk to take. But I'm glad I took the risk and went for it. And I also found like a lot of similarities, believe it or not,
Mhm.
between like medicine and product design. Again, like the analytical skills, problem solving, you're still looking to help people. So just changing my perspective up helped me feel like it wasn't as big of a jump as it was.
Yeah. And would you say, we have a question here that kind of pertains to this. We have someone asking about being someone who has not yet attended UX Academy. Would you advise someone considering going the self-taught route to become a UX designer?
Mm, I feel like that depends on you. I feel like you
Mhm.
have to ask yourself, how disciplined are you? Are you able to kind of give yourself your own deadlines, outline things for yourself, organize for yourself? I'm someone who needs help with that, and I like having structure. And I like that someone has kind of like done the grunt work for me in telling me like this is what you need to learn foundationally. Um, but that's not to say like boot camp is all I use. I definitely did a lot of self teaching outside of boot camp too, between like YouTube, Medium articles, anything you could find.
Mhm.
So that's really just a personal preference and how well you think you can organize and set up structure for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I do feel like, just like you said, it probably really depends on the person. If you're like, a superhero person where you could kind of, take it yourself and be disciplined. But I think especially if you're going into a brand new field of work and learning a ton, it's always good to have some structure. That being said, when you were looking at different boot camps to go to, what made you decide on Designlab?
Let's see, because I went back and forth for a while, but with Designlab, there are some things that like stood out to me. So first, I really liked that there was a foundation portion and then your academy. So this is letting me like try it out, get my feet wet before committing to it. And I really, really like that. So I could dig in and see what I was really getting myself into. And through that particular course, I really liked the structure of it. So you have different elements that you're doing, like you're reading, you're watching videos, you're also like creating. So I felt like there were a lot of different things I could do. And I'm not just like spending the whole time like reading, trying to
Mhm.
figure it out myself. Um, and then also, I like the group critiques. So that's really similar to what I do on a day to day basis. So a couple times a week, we have group critiques at the job, and like you get feedback on your designs and how you can improve. So that really stood out to me. So I didn't feel alone. Like you have everybody else that's going through it. You're getting feedback. You're learning to take feedback because that's not always easy, and you're learning to give it as well. Mentorship, because again, like it's helpful if someone is helping me and like giving me structure and helping me like stay organized. So those are just like a few of the reasons. Oh, and also like one of the biggest ones. So Design Lab had at the time, I don't know if you guys still have it, the Diversify and Design Scholarship. Um,
Yeah, we do.
and I applied for that and was able to get like a full ride.
Oh,
So
that's
sign
awesome.
is sealed at that point. So
Yeah.
I just felt like there were a lot of avenues and help through this particular boot camp when compared to others, which felt like they were going to be a little bit more lonely, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, as far as like the community aspect too,
Yeah,
I know we have Discord, we have obviously the admissions team, but also your mentor, I think, is a huge part of it for sure.
yeah, for sure.
Um, and I know going through kind of getting into more so the course itself, from some of the questions. And again, I'm sorry if we're not going to be able to get through every question, especially the more specific ones.
Mhm,
We could definitely get through that a little bit later. But I would say, in general, to help most of the people listening, um, UX Academy, it is a long course. Um,
mhm,
what helped you get, keep feeling motivated throughout the course when you feel like, because obviously it is one of those things you're learning a lot and there's a lot to do.
mhm.
You're in the thick of it, in the middle of the whole program. What made you keep on going to feel like you're almost there and accomplished it? Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it was tough sometimes, but I just feel like that community aspect, like we were talking about, was really helpful. You start meeting different people who are going through the same process, and you feel less alone. You're like, you can see them struggling here or having the same thoughts that you are. And so that was helpful to feel like, okay, it's not just me. Like, it's not that I'm bad at this or that I suck. It's just part of the process.
Yeah.
And then my mentor, I feel like your mentor can really help make your experience. When I would get stuck on certain areas, she was always super helpful in changing my perspective or providing me with extra resources. Um, for all types of things, anything from like UI to research. And she would always give like really good critique. So she would tell me what I would do, what I could do better, but she always made it a point to point out like what I'm doing well. Again, like just it made me feel like I'm not doing a bad job. This is part of the process. I'm not going to give everything right on the first, try. So I feel like the community of people that you meet along the way is really, really motivating. And seeing other people go through the process as well, even though they may be going faster than you or slower than you, it's so nice just to have like other people surrounding you going through the same thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. And especially if you're coming from, I know from the chats too, I can tell there's a lot of people that are going from different industry, thinking
Mhm.
about going to UX and UI. So it's great to have you here to kind of talk about that. As you were continuing with UX, did you feel more confident because you were learning so much, or was it like always an uphill battle as far as like, did you feel more confident as you went on to the course, or when did that confidence kind of come where you're like, I could do this?
Um, yeah, I definitely started to get more confident. I think it would happen in like different areas.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to research, that part was usually a bit more simple for me to do. I could like get through it and feel pretty confident about it. But it took me a while to get more confident because I wouldn't even say I'm like super confident in like my UI skills today still. Something that I'm working on improving. But it's just like one of those things, the more you do it, the better you get, and you start to learn like most things you see, most apps and products, there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of them are patterns, and you learn those patterns. And you just start kind of learning the ins and outs of how other people have done it before you. And that helped me gain confidence when I was starting to figure out like, oh, okay, like this is a common pattern, so mine should look like this, or it just starts to click. For me, I feel like it happened a little bit more slowly. I
Mhm.
didn't feel confident until my very last project, my third project. I felt really good about it. It was the quickest one I completed. And it's actually the one that I shared as part of my portfolio when even interviewing for this job. So again, like it takes some of us longer than others, but my confidence definitely kept increasing as time went on. So
Yeah.
no worries.
And I love the seeing the emojis come out there. It's always encouraging. It's like, oh, they're listening. This is
They are.
great.
You
So we
care about
appreciate
what I
that.
have to say.
No, that was great to hear. And I think that as far as the course itself,
Mhm.
there's something that now that you're out of Designlab as far as UX Academy, what would you say from the course that you took the most from it? Like you feel like you still use today?
Mm, I feel like a lot of those foundational pieces are really important. So, and I feel like that's what boot camp is. You're really just getting the foundation for what UX design is, because there's a lot of depth to it. But
Mhm.
at least like here, we're getting the foundations of what to do, what not to do, how to make sure we're making things accessible because that's really important. Again, like learning the patterns. So I feel like boot camp really just gave me a solid foundation to go off of. So that way, when I was off doing other things or even in the job today, I have that to refer back to. Like I still have articles that I had from boot camp bookmarked and tabbed like at the top of my computer because they're just easy to refer back um, to get your like foundational issues and problems and how to solve them. So for me, I think that's what helped the most. Just again, like I know I've said it a million times now, but just the foundation um, and learning like the bare minimum was very helpful
Yeah.
in just giving me an entryway to get everywhere else and to learn everything else.
No, I totally agree. It seems like there's so much to learn, and then once you kind of learn the foundations, you could build on that. And it's not as, it's not like
Like
a huge
crazy,
mountain you
yeah,
have to
like
climb.
Figma, because before, boot camp, I had never touched Figma.
Yeah.
I was struggling. I remember when I was trying to decide if I wanted to do this, I was like, "Let me see if I can build a pie chart in Figma to see how hard it is." When I tell you I struggled, it's kinda embarrassing now because it's so quick and easy to do, but I could not. It took me a long time and a few videos to figure that out. So that's something like you learn in Designlab as part of boot camp, you're increasing like your skills in Figma. So those technical skills are really important too, as well as like, again, like learning to give feedback and your personable skills. You learn a lot of those things, which for me like equates to like foundation. So when I say like it creates a foundation, it's not just all reading articles. Like there's a lot of things you learn that create a foundation to go off of.
Gotcha. And kind of going off of kind of, the parts that are difficult and the parts that you really enjoyed within the course itself, would you say kind of like getting a handle on the tools, was that the most difficult part of UX Academy for you, or was there something else?
Hmm. It wasn't getting a handle on the tools. I feel like I got the hang of the tools. I think the most difficult part for me, um, is probably still the UI aspect, just
Mhm.
making things look good, learning that sometimes less is more, learning to look at patterns from other products and, just learning the why behind why we're doing what we're doing. So you may make a button look like this, but why are you making the button look like that?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
just trying to really make that click and learn the why behind what I'm doing and the designs I'm doing. That took me some time. I remember on one of my projects, I got stuck for a really long time, for probably like a month. I just could not get it to look good, basically. Um, but I felt like once I went back, kind of read into, why certain patterns work or why certain things need to be done, that helped me. But again, like I said, like UI, I'm still working on it. It's something that I struggle with, but I'm looking to improve. And I have improved like a lot throughout boot camp and even after.
Yeah, and then so and as far as like your favorite part of the course, what would that be?
Um, I loved meeting the people. So I really enjoyed just the cohort that I came in with. We had a lot of time to connect, so I really enjoyed meeting the people. That was one of my favorite parts. I really enjoyed towards the end, it really got fun to actually make those projects and put them
Mhm.
together in the end, like designing them out. Like I said earlier, that last project just really clicked for me. I did it over something that I really enjoyed. And so it just made it so fun to actually go through and do. Um, so yeah, when you're getting to like your big three projects towards the end, I think that's when it gets really fun because you're just putting everything together that you've learned and you're getting to experiment, play around with different things. And you just, at that point, I feel like you really feel like a designer.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of my favorite parts, like getting my projects done, but especially that last one was really fun to me.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I feel like it's like with anything that you're learning, it's like it's the least fun part is like the learning how to do things slowly. And then eventually when you get to kind of use all that knowledge to actually do what you came here to do, it's a lot
Yeah,
more fun.
a
So
lot.
yeah, that makes sense. And you touched about like, you really loved meeting other students in your cohort. Can you kind of talk about that as far as like how did you interact with them? Like was it through Discord or outside of that?
Um, we had a few different ways. I think at the time when I was doing it, because we were in Slack before this, weren't we?
There was Slack before Discord, yeah.
So, my cohort had a Slack, and I think they still have a Discord today. So,
Mhm.
just talking through them through that avenue. Also, there was like someone created like a LinkedIn group too. So we connected over LinkedIn, and people would just like drop in questions or if they needed help or participation for one of their projects. And I'm pretty sure like they still all chat today, which is really cool to see. Um, I know there were like calls you could hop into every week just with like our cohort, and just talk about what was on your mind, like how's it going with your projects, your mentor, anything that you wanted to talk about. So we had a few different ways that we were connecting in and throughout the boot camp.
That's great. I do feel like that kind of support really helps when it's not just you. Because I mean, it is definitely a course that it's not just meant to be like a worksheet back when we were kids that you fill
Yeah.
out. It's actual learning and very hands on. So definitely when you get to those times, I know some people talked in the chat as far as the motivation aspect. I think
Mhm.
if you haven't already, definitely check out the Discord. We have a Discord channel specifically for modules, so you could really start networking with other students, and you guys could kind of vet with each other or like learn from each other. So that's super helpful.
Yeah,
That's a great tip.
very helpful. And I see Charmaine in here too. She would always check on me. She was part of my cohort, and she would like always reach out. So shout out to her.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, just a couple more questions about the actual course itself.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with time management as far as, trying to keep, it's asynchronous, but at the same time, there is an end date to the actual course itself. So I know that's something that some people struggle with. Can you
Mhm.
just talk about how you kind of manage your time and if you did struggle at any point?
I definitely struggle
Yeah.
with time management. Like I'm just gonna be upfront about it. I mean, sometimes things I'm learning, like I said, it wouldn't click right away. So I couldn't get them done as fast as, maybe the time allotted says. And we used to have like the tracker on the side. I don't know if it's still there. And it
Mhm.
would tell you like if you're falling behind or if you're not. And I would see that and it would say like, you're falling behind. And it would be a little stressful, but I just got to a point where I realized I just personally want to take this at my own pace so I can really absorb what I'm learning. Um, and again, that's probably why I couldn't self teach because I did need something to keep me on track.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, I'm still like getting it done at my own pace. I'm learning, I'm having help if I do get stuck because like I said, there was that one project that I got stuck on for a really long time and my mentor kind of helped me through it. So it's definitely a learning curve when it comes to time management. At least it was for me. I wasn't working at the time, but just doing other projects or whatever I had going on in life, I really just had to think, all right, this is what I want my career to be. So I am going to have to cut out time to actually work on this, absorb it, and learn it. But yeah, there were times where I was falling behind just because I wasn't like keeping up with everything or things would get tough for me and I didn't know how to like complete that part.
Mhm.
And then I would see other people like zooming through. So
Yeah.
it just all depends. I definitely struggled with time management, got the hang of it as time went on, and was able to do a lot better. Sometimes I would get stuck. So it just all depends. But I was there for a while. Like I think I
Yeah.
started in September and it still took me like to the spring of the next year or something. So I was in there for a few months.
So what I'm getting from this for those that are listening, like if you do feel like you're, struggling a little bit or, falling a little bit behind, stick with it. it definitely, I feel like
Yeah.
that's a huge part of it, is sticking with it and knowing and being confident that you are learning and building on things, even though
Yeah.
sometimes it may not feel like it at the time.
For sure. Like you just have to keep pushing and keep going. And then when I did feel like, okay, I feel a little behind, I would do things outside of Design Lab too to just help me feel like I wasn't falling so behind. Like I would volunteer on other projects. I would try to read different books. So even though I may have been like struggling with one thing in Design Lab, I could still be progressing elsewhere
Mhm.
and come out of all of this like well-rounded. So,
For sure.
mhm.
And I think it was that, that general quote of like nothing worth it comes easy. So I'm glad that you you definitely fought through it. And speaking of like extra resources outside of UX Academy, I know that's a question that's been thrown out quite a bit. Are there
Mhm.
any, I guess, um, specific resources that you would recommend people taking a look at, whether it be books or websites?
Mm, one that I always tend to recommend, and if any of you have ever talked to me, I've probably recommended, is Tech Fleet. So Tech Fleet works with like a lot of us who are trying to pivot or change careers. And, there's that catch 22 of like, you need experience to get the job, but
Mhm.
how am I gonna get it if no one's giving me a chance, basically? And Tech Fleet like gives you a chance just on a volunteer basis. You can go in and work on a real world project. Um, and the expectation is not that you have like experience beforehand. Like you can go in and apply to be a lead and have never done this before. So I thought Tech Fleet, and there are definitely other businesses and companies and resources like that, but just finding somewhere to volunteer, I feel like was so much help. And it gave me a chance to see what it's like to work with on a team. Because in Design Lab, a lot of this, we're working on ourselves. But in places like Tech Fleet, you are working with everyone and everyone has their own like assigned role, whether they're like a researcher or the developer or product manager. And so I just thought that was really cool that someone was going out of their way um, to like give students a chance to actually even get the experience, even though they don't have any. So that was really great. That's with Morgan Dinner. So I recommend that.
Mhm.
Outside of that, I spent a lot of time on YouTube. I would read Medium articles. There are some books that I didn't even read like the whole book, but I would like skim through books um, just to like get understanding and get other people's thoughts on like certain UX related things. But there are so many resources. So just always be looking out, skim through articles you may come across because you'll learn a lot.
For sure. And I know like you were mentioning you were struggling a little bit with the UI aspects of things. Was that
Mhm.
when you kind of like sought after more resources like YouTube videos or stuff like that in order to improve on that?
Yeah, definitely. So when it came to the UI, I think my mentor was probably the biggest help with that and just helping me find websites.
Mhm.
And it didn't even have to be related to the project I was doing. She would just show me like, look at the pattern that they're using to create their product, basically. So I would spend time like looking at other websites and then again, probably just like reading up on just like the patterns and certain go-tos for UI that you could always use or to help you improve. So I definitely started like branching out to help myself progress when I would get stuck in Design Lab.
That's great. And I think it's like the people that succeed also are the ones that like they're on top of things like, hey, this might be a weak point. Just like
Mhm.
anything, like even like working out, if there's a weak point in your body, you can't just ignore it. So I think that's
Yeah.
great that you found other tools there. Kind of pivoting though, just for time purposes, wanted to kind of touch about the actual portfolio projects.
Okay.
So as far as your approach when choosing your portfolio project, can you kind of talk about that as far as, is the idea more important than the actual execution, or is it vice versa? Or yeah, if you just take us about how you went on choosing your portfolio projects.
Ooh, that took me a little bit of time too to really understand like what it's for. I mean, I know it's there to showcase your work, um, but you begin to understand like a lot of us, our portfolios will look the same. So I had to really take a step back again and look at what else can I do or add to really make this a well-rounded project. Um, so in saying that, I feel like your process when it comes to your portfolio is really, really important, even more so than the execution. When you're applying to jobs or when people are looking at your portfolio, it's great to see like pretty screens, but they want to know how you got there.
Mhm.
They want to know why you made the decisions to choose or make the designs that you did. And it's really important to show that and delve into that. Like, y'all have probably heard it a lot. You really want to tell a story with your portfolio. And I think that's so true. Like, when you're building out, I feel like at towards the end, when you're like putting it all together, it could be easy to just say, I did this and this and this and this. But you really want to go back and tell them why you did this and this
Yeah,
and this. And it'll be so helpful. If you messed up or you ran into a roadblock, put that in there. Like, hiring managers and people, they want to know that. They want to see how you overcame and were able to pretty much come up with a solution. Or even if you didn't come up with a great solution, what would you do next time to improve it? I feel like all those things are really important. And I didn't prioritize them at first, but once I started reading more and understanding more, those are definitely things I prioritized when it came to my portfolio. I like really set the scene and told the whole story.
that's great. And what was there a specific project that kind of you felt like helped land you the job at Pinterest?
So for mine, it was that last project that I talked to you about. I think it's called In Home. It was basically a furniture app that was using AI to help people like design their space before purchasing anything for it. Um, so when it came to that particular project and building it for the portfolio, I really set out, okay, like, why does this even matter? Why would anybody want that app? And I talked about how it could be more accessible to like plan this out from home before you have to like try and get to the store and order bulky furniture. I talked about how it could help the business and, it could get more sales because people have easier access to it. So I gave reasons for why my problem was even important. And then I went in and I talked about how I broke it down and figured out how I was going to design a solution for this problem. So um, I went and looked like, are there any AI apps like this already? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? What can I do better? And I wrote all of this out in my portfolio. I sketched it out and I would like annotate my sketches and I broke the whole thing down. I could talk about it for a long time.
Well, that's awesome. I
I
could tell.
think
Yeah.
we'll have like my portfolio somewhere. But I really wanted to present like a well-rounded story of why I did what I did. Like, I think that's so important. And that's something that we really miss, is really talking about why we did something. Like, why is this important? So your why is going to be very, very important when it comes to your portfolio and just like interviewing in general.
That's a great tip. I totally agree with that. And were you kind of at that point doing your portfolio projects? Did you have a type of industry in mind as far as that you wanted to get into, or were you pretty much open to any industry as you were doing your portfolios?
I was open. I needed a job. I was
Yeah.
not about to be super picky. Um, but in saying that, I think I was leaning more towards probably like tech and entertainment companies. But again, I wasn't really picky and I wasn't really thinking about what exact job I wanted. I will say that can be really important and help you in your process of your portfolio and interviewing, because if you know the field you want to go in or like companies you're leaning towards, you can kind of pick out a project or design a project that I wouldn't say focuses on the exact same thing, but sometimes you can figure out how to tie it in, because it helps show your value to that company, because it's like, oh, that's something we could use or that's something we do. So even though I didn't have anything exact in mind, that could be helpful. You definitely don't have to go like too specific because you'll probably be applying to a bunch of different places. But yeah, I was just kind of gonna see where the wind took me afterwards.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I get that question quite a bit that people ask, like, should I already know what industry I want to go into? So a lot of people stress about if I want to go to healthcare, I just have my portfolio
Mm.
projects have to do with healthcare. So it's good to know that. I think if you don't know, that's totally fine. It's good to have a
Mhm.
diverse portfolio. So I think that's some good advice there. And then as far as Designlab, teaches a certain type of workflow, and how much of that specific type of workflow is it relevant in your current workplace?
Um, I think again we have to think about it on a foundational level
Mhm.
because a lot of the things that I did in Design Lab are still important. But I may not do everything day to day. So like research, for example, we have researchers,
Mhm.
but that was still really important to learn because I have to know how to take that said research and make a solution out of it, make a design out of it, you know? Um, and then just like a lot of those design aspects that we went through, ideating and really coming up with a solution, all those are important. You won't do them necessarily in sequence anymore, or somebody else might be taking over something like the research. But in knowing that full process, I know how to connect things together. Like I said, take research and make it into a design. I know how to kind of come up with different ideas very quickly, and maybe sketch them out or like wireframe them very quickly. For presentation, sometimes you might prototype just to share. All those things are really important. You just don't do them, step one, step two, step three, step four. You don't do it like that anymore. You just
Right.
day to day, it can be different in which part that you're actually using.
It's like dancing.
Yeah,
Like it's like literally, you don't do 1, 2, 1, 2, but you just go with it once
yeah,
once you have a good understanding.
right.
I think that's such a good point because I know I talk to a lot of people and I always say the same thing. Like in UX Academy, you'll have a holistic understanding of both UI and UX, but
Mhm.
like what that actually means, it is really important because once you do get out in the real world and starting your job, it's really important because you don't know what you'll be using once
Yeah.
you start your job.
Exactly. Yeah, and it varies from job to job. It varies based on the number of designers you have. Like maybe you're at a small company and you're going to be like the only designer or they expect you to do research too. Like it really depends on the job. So that's why getting that well-rounded view of the entire process is still really important.
Definitely. And before we transition to the job hunt aspect, I know a lot of people are asking about the job hunt aspect of it. A lot of Pinterest fans too, asking
Yeah,
specifically
a lot of
about that. So whatever you are able to talk about that. But before we get there, going back to, I saw a question about someone that's finished foundations, about to go into UX Academy. Any
questions.
tips as far as if you could take yourself back to that mindset of finishing foundations and then getting ready for UX Academy? Was there anything that you could have done to help yourself, or any kind of advice you would give that person?
I would just say more of the same, like
Yeah.
going back to time management, like really work on trying to set out times to complete the projects. That doesn't mean if you're stuck, because if you're stuck and it's taking you longer to do something, no worries. Everybody's journey is different. I'm sure y'all know this. Some people are just quicker than others. Some people may be like going slower than others, and that's fine. But if you're at least working on it and trying, that helps so much. So just get ready to have time management. Read those articles that are linked in there. I think not everything is required, but try to just like, read those articles, bookmark them, and come back to them. Use your other resources, YouTube, articles, Google, whatever, to help you get through get through the boot camp and like create a well-rounded like learning process. You don't have to rely only on that. You want to use it with boot camp, in conjunction with boot camp. So yeah, just don't beat yourself up, and get ready to time manage.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
I think it's true. It's like the simple advice, but I think it's very true. And like basically using your actual resources like your mentor. I feel like
Mhm.
the mentor relationship is very much as you put into it is how much you're going to get from it. And I feel like a lot of people are just wanting things to happen for them. So I think it's really good to kind of have that go get it attitude for sure.
Yeah, and make sure you attend group critique
Mhm.
and try to get feedback. I feel like it can be nerve-wracking to want to present your work during some of those sessions, especially if you're new. But just put yourself out there and do it because I feel like that helps you improve that much more quickly when people, can help you see what you may have missed or offer suggestions. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean your design is bad. And I have to do it at work all the time. So just get in there and make sure you're, collaborating where you can.
Definitely. I do feel like the group critiques are super valuable, especially for those that are like new to design, just to kind of get those, those calluses, like get that,
Yeah.
understand that that's not too personal, and getting used to it. Because yeah, like you said, you're going to have to talk about your work and get people to talk about your own work, which could be a sensitive situation at first.
Yeah.
So totally get that. I do think that is super important. And then, okay, I know a lot of Pinterest questions, so we'll get right to it. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this part. Um, I guess after you finished with UX Academy, how long after until you got your first job?
So fun fact, I hadn't finished boot camp when I got
Oh,
my job, actually. So I started boot camp in September. Um, and then I was doing it for a while. I think in January, I started doing like Tech Fleet as well. And then around April or May is when I started to apply to jobs. I felt like my portfolio was okay. Um, and I don't think I even got a chance to like apply to that many. I still have it saved on my phone because I would like record where I applied, if they rejected me, which everybody did except Pinterest, but that's okay because you just need one yes.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah, I had only applied to about 10 companies at that point.
Okay.
Um, I got rejected or ghosted by every single one of them except Pinterest.
Yeah.
And I was still just like doing boot camp. I was like working on my portfolio and just trying to refine that because my version was like a PDF portfolio.
Mhm.
So when I got hired, um, that's around the time like I went ahead and finished up boot camp because I had just gotten so distracted between like the job hunt and like other things that I was doing. Yeah, so it took me a while and I didn't finish until after I got the job.
Yeah. So I see that resilience is kind of a key trait to have going into this.
Yeah.
Um, like you're not to expect to just get the first job right after, but can you talk about? And I mean, now that you work there, it's probably a little easier to talk about it. But having the rejection and getting through that and not kind of feeling like, oh, this isn't for me. Can you like what helped you kind of get over that hump as far as to keep applying for jobs?
Hmm. It was so early in the game for me, and I know I don't wanna be insensitive because I know there are people who apply to 50, 100 and plus jobs. Um, for me, I was really just trying not to take it to heart. I
Mhm.
had just started really applying to different companies, and when I saw rejection, I was like, "Oh well," because at that point, I wasn't getting any interviews or anything. So Pinterest was like my first interview, my first, yes. So I didn't take things to heart. I just kind of saw it and was like, well, I'm going to apply to the next one. I know there are a lot of us out here in the same boat trying to apply, trying to do the best we can. Um, and I just kept pushing. So for me, it was about just not letting things get to me too
Mhm.
much. Because if I stopped and focused on, oh, I didn't get this job, it would be hard to focus on, applying to other jobs. Now I say that, but had it, maybe it been Pinterest where I went through, the interview process and all the things it took and I got rejection, yes, I probably would have taken a couple weeks, a month,
Right.
whatever, cry my tears, whatever I felt. And then when I felt better, pick myself up, let's start applying again. So you really just have to go through the process, go through the ups and downs. There will be rejections, a lot more no's. Again, I only got one yes. Um, and that yes was, good enough for me. So you just have to keep pushing yourself no matter like, you know, if you get a yes or a no, just keep going.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think that's super encouraging, probably for a lot of people listening right now. So I think that's great to hear. And as far as when you were applying, though, were you looking for like a specific type of job, or were you open to, I guess, like for example, were you looking at to be a UX researcher, or were you looking for more a generalist type of job?
I was definitely looking for design. More general. I didn't apply for any research positions or anything like that. I tried to look for entry level or junior jobs if they had any. But if it said like 1 to 3 years, I applied anyway because I just felt like, well, I can learn. Um, but yeah, I just focused on design jobs and I tried to target anything that specifically said entry level or junior, but those are really hard to come by too, if I'm honest.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of people are also asking as far as the job itself at Pinterest. Um, and whatever you are able to talk about, because I know we don't want to get too specific with specific companies, but can you kind of go in general as far as what your day to day kind of looks like, as far as within your positions, for people to know what to expect, I guess, in certain roles?
Sure. So what does my day look like? This is kind of not for the job specifically, but because Pinterest is situated like on the West Coast, that's where most of my coworkers are, and I'm on the East Coast, so they're 3 hours behind me. So my day usually doesn't start till like around 12, which is really nice. Gives me work-life balance. And then day to day, I'm probably attending meetings. Um, about like the context of a project, again, giving like the why behind why we're doing this project and like what it's going to help. And then I usually meet with my mentor, which is really great because he'll help me with like projects or just talk through like what's going on. I usually have some space for design depending on like what projects are going on or where my help is needed. But I'm just on and off of Slack during the day, seeing who needs help. Like if an engineer needs me to go fix something or they have a question about a design, I go in and like answer questions. So yeah, my day is like it's split up between, I would say, meetings, some design time, and then like just being on and off of Slack answering questions and keeping up with context that's going on.
Awesome. And yeah, no, that's great to kind of have a good sense of it. And you are fully remote, I'm guessing, as
Yeah,
far as being in Georgia. Yeah.
fully remote. I roll out of bed, brush my teeth, go sit at the computer.
Yeah, you don't have to go on a jet from Georgia to California
No.
and go back.
Thankfully. Although I did get the chance to visit once, like towards the beginning. We had like an in-person week. So I got to meet a lot of my team and explore the city because I'd never been to California, let alone San Francisco. So that
Mhm.
was really fun. But yeah, day to day, I'm remote. We can really work from anywhere. So that's super great. Life is flexible. Like if I want to go to visit my family or on a vacation, I can still work from those spots. So I absolutely love that about my job.
Definitely. That's awesome. I know a lot of people these days, especially, are looking for remote jobs. There are
Mhm.
a good amount out there, so no worries there. But I guess kind of like wrapping this up towards the end of this interview, it's been great talking to you too. So I really
Thanks.
appreciate all the advice
Fun.
and everything. Yeah, but I guess what's your goals, I guess, for the future? As far as within UX UI, where are you looking? Where are you headed to? As far as what you like to do moving forward?
This is such a hard question for me.
I
And it's
know.
something I've been asking myself because for so long, the goal was just, get my foot in the door, break into the industry. And it's like once you finally get there, or once I finally got here, I was just kind of like enjoying being in the moment and being there. Um, and then I started talking like to my mentor and my manager about my goals, and I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah,
But, that's definitely just something I'm trying to figure out, like, what I wanna do next and where I wanna go from here. Right now, I'm prioritizing just working on my technical skills and again, just trying to become a more well-rounded designer. I would love to be able to like, move up and become a more senior designer one day. I don't know if I want to go into like management yet. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
right
a different, that's a whole
now.
nother,
That's a
whole nother
whole
type of
other,
job.
yeah, that's something I didn't know. Like, I feel like there's actually so much you can do within product design. Like, you
Mhm.
can be a manager, you could be a senior designer, like, you can focus on different subsets. And I didn't really know that until I got here. So I'm taking the time to really just improve my technical skills and become a well-rounded designer. I'm doing a lot of exploring. I get to work on different teams and just, see what everybody's doing. And that's just giving me the opportunity to kind of figure out what I want to do and come up with my next goal. So hopefully, like, maybe in a month's time, I'll have a better answer to that. But right now, I'm just taking it day by day. Yeah, and just trying to get better every day.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a very honest answer too, because I don't like that question either. I had to ask, but for me, like if you asked me, I wouldn't know either. I would feel
Yeah, I'm just
hopefully everything works out. I'm happy where I'm at right now. Hopefully the future's nice. But
hopefully it's a lot
yeah,
going on right now. So,
I'm
but yeah, I don't know. I definitely do want to explore that and figure out my answer because I feel like it's going to be really helpful. But
totally.
it just takes time. Can't rush everything. So
You worked so hard to get where you are now. It makes sense. Like you could chill for a little bit. It
I
doesn't have to
enjoy
be. Yeah,
it.
exactly. I don't think we have to live in a life where we have to keep pushing until until we can enjoy
Yeah,
life.
I just needed
So,
it like a couple months, but I'm for sure going to be setting some more goals and like striving for more, bigger, better, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I had to take my few months and just like take it all in because it's surreal. It was a long process to get here, a tedious process. So yeah, I just kind of let myself enjoy it.
yeah. No, and congrats. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
sounds like I mean, you stuck with it. You fought through everything, and that's it's always great to talk to someone that's been through the whole process through
Yeah.
foundations to UX Academy, and now you're at Pinterest. And yeah, definitely enjoy it. You definitely
Man.
um, to wrap it up though, any kind of last words of wisdom or anything else that you could say to those are finishing foundations or they're currently in UX Academy, and they are hopeful that one day they will get the job that they work so hard for.
Keep pushing, just keep going. If you have to like take a break because you're tired and stressed, take that break and then go back and keep pushing because you'll get there one day. Like it took me, I would say what, a little less than a year, or actually I started my job in September, so it took me a year. And there were certain points along that journey where I just didn't think like it was going to happen or it was going to take a lot longer, but I just had to keep pushing. So keep going. It doesn't matter what the economy is looking like or, if someone's zooming past you, we all know that we have to do things in our own time. So don't compare your journey to everybody else's. You probably heard it a million times, but please don't. Just like focus on your own lane, keep pushing because it'll work out. And I know a lot of you reach out to me, like definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll try to answer your questions. Sometimes I get busy at work, so it takes me a while. You'll have to forgive me, but I definitely try to like answer questions and help people out when I can because I'm not that far from where everybody else is right now. And I know what it was like to try and figure out how to network and talk to people and, just figure out what the heck I was doing. So just keep pushing. It's gonna work out. Just keep believing. It sounds corny, it sounds cheesy, but I promise, like it really will.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. Obviously, huge thanks to Bethany Burns for just all this whole time that you've given to us to kind of go through your journey. It was really fun to get to know you during this chat too. I'm going to put this in the chat though. We are going ahead and having the actual webinar will be on YouTube. So if you want to check it out, definitely I can't believe I'm doing the whole thing. Click subscribe to get to the channel when you get there so you can see when it goes live. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be that YouTube person. Also, yeah, follow us on Instagram at Designlab, at Twitter, it's Try Designlab as well. So follow us, click all the buttons. to follow us. And again, yeah, as everyone's saying, thanks so much, Bethany. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I didn't even open the chat. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed talking. And I can't believe like so many people came to hear what I have to say, but thanks for having me. I hope it was some help. Reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and hopefully we can continue the conversation.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for everyone joining. Hopefully this was fun for everyone else too. But yeah, good luck with
Good
your
luck on
job
your
hunt, your
journeys.
courses, everything. Yeah. All right, take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.